Welcome to the Astrology Show with your host, Kelli Fox. Each week, Kelli will give you access to the current transits that are a valuable tool which provide astrological information to help unlock the potential each of us has through our sun sign. Understanding the current planetary influences each week can help steer us in the right direction to make better informed choices. Sometimes, events in your life may seem completely random, but there is a pattern to the order of these events, one set in motion in part by you, and in part by the planets and stars in the sky and their influence on your life here on Earth. So if you're wondering what's going to happen in your week ahead, if you're going to get that promotion, move to a new city, or fall in love, tune in to the Astrology Show for guidance. It can help you anticipate problems before they occur, give you tools to cope with changes, and help you look forward to the wonderful days ahead. Kelli Fox is a professional astrologer and internet pioneer who launched astrology.com, one of the first and most successful astrology websites. Today, her passion lies with her new site, theastrologer.com, where she brings a modern-day approach to an ancient wisdom. Please join Kelli each week to learn more about how the planets can align for you.
Hi there, and welcome to the Astrology Show. I'm Kelli Fox, your host and astrologer. This week, we have a very busy astrological week. This show is going to be about what's happening this week in the stars. And the big news of the week is Mars turned retrograde yesterday. So Mars turned retrograde in Sagittarius. Also this week, today we had Pluto turning retrograde. Tomorrow we have the Sun moving into Taurus. And Thursday we have a very intense Scorpio full moon. So what I'm going to do is take it step by step. And at the end of the show, I'm going to give you your weekly horoscope. But this show, and right now, I want to start talking to you about Mars retrograde. So that's the big news. So Mars turned retrograde yesterday at 8 degrees Sagittarius. This will affect the fire signs more so, or anybody who has any planets in fire signs. And the fire signs are Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. Mars retrograde will also be affecting the mutable signs, and that's Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces. And Mars is the warrior planet, and the warrior planet means it's very male-driven, it has a lot of male energy, it's how we assert ourselves, it's what motivates us, it's the planet of action and assertion. And when Mars turns retrograde, and retrograde means the planets appear to be traveling backwards in their orbit around the sun, but technically they don't really travel backwards. They just slow down so much that from our perspective here on Earth, they look like they're traveling backwards, but they're not. So when Mars turns retrograde, the fight becomes more of an internal one rather than an external. Mars goes retrograde approximately once every 2 years, and it's for a period of about 10 weeks or so. So the timing of this retrograde period, it's complicated because it involves 2 signs, and those signs are Sagittarius and then Scorpio. So on April 17th, Mars turned retrograde in Sagittarius, and then it will regress back into Scorpio on May 27th, before finally turning direct on June 29th. So let me break it down. I want to start with what really does Mars retrograde mean, then I want to talk to you about what it means when it's retrograde in Sagittarius and then in Scorpio. So Mars, as I said, is the warrior planet, and it's more internal than external, because the regular energy or the normal energy of Mars is external, and it's about how we assert ourselves. And the key thing to understand about Mars retrograde is that it's not the time to start anything new. And that's quite normal for any sort of retrograde planet, because retrograde is about redoing something or something that's coming up from the past that needs to be reviewed again or looked at. So under normal circumstances, Mars is an initiator, it's a starter, it's a driver. But when it's retrograde, if you start a new project during this 10-week period, it may tend to backfire, meaning you might have to redo something from the new project or anything that you've instigated. This Mars retrograde period is best used for reflection and planning rather than taking any sort of action. So it's best to strategize about what to do, but not necessarily put anything into place or into action. If you can hold off starting something new, wait until Mars is finally direct. And that will be June 29th. And then it will turn direct in Scorpio at 23 degrees. So when Mars is retrograde in the philosophical sign of Sagittarius, these energies will be around religion, ideologies, any sort of philosophy, because that's what Sagittarius is all about. Sagittarius is the sign of looking at life from a higher perspective or a broader view. So when it comes together with Mars, there's a lot of energy around this type of area of life. And so for many people who are being affected, all of us are affected by the planets at all times, but in varying degrees. So anybody that is a fire sign, particularly born early in the fire sign, you will be affected, or mutable signs, you'll be affected as well. So for many, this could involve a crisis of faith or a sudden questioning of values and beliefs we've previously taken for granted. So what that means is it's like anything that we might have held on to or felt strongly about, our views might be shaken at this time. Now, Sagittarius is an adventurous, active male sign, but while Mars is retrograde, we don't feel that optimism as much, maybe a bit more pessimism, bitterness, disillusionment when Mars is retrograde, particularly in Sagittarius. And then when Mars moves backwards into Scorpio, the energies become darker even still. So Mars retrogrades back into Scorpio May 27th. So on May 27th, Mars will move backwards into Scorpio, and it will stay there through June 29th. Now, this will affect the fixed signs more so, and that's Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius, particularly people born towards the end of those four signs. Mars in Scorpio will also affect the water signs, and that's Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. Now, when Mars is retrograde in Scorpio, Mars is the ruler of Scorpio, so it's not so disjointed. There is a certain flow there. It's a very powerful placement. It's very determined. But when it's retrograde, the anger is directed to all things hidden and private, because Scorpio is a very private and hidden sign. It's very mysterious. It only lets you see what it wants you to see. So when Mars is in Scorpio retrograde, things from the past will definitely be coming up for many of us. So it's something that might be hidden or unknown is suddenly revealed. So be prepared. And that includes both on the world stage on a more personal level. So it's also issues of abuse, power and trauma will need airing and talking through. There could be public anger over a cover-up. Also, for some, Mars retrograde in Scorpio suggests the reappearance of a former lover. So be aware of that as well. Disrupting an existing relationship. Mars in Scorpio retrograde is also about jealousy, whether warranted or not. So take care with that, also with possessiveness. These feelings might usually be kept under control, but when it's Mars retrograde, those energies may be let loose during this period. It does sound rather alarming. It doesn't have to be. It's important to remember that anger is not always a negative thing. It's an energy that gets things done. If we can channel our anger in the right direction, it can be a force for good and for change in the world. So during this Mars retrograde period, outrage over injustice, unfairness, or religious extremism, when Mars is retrograde in Sagittarius, can be used to plan positive action, which can be put into practice once the retrograde period passes, and that is in late June. So once again, Mars is has turned retrograde since yesterday, and so it's currently retrograde in Sagittarius. So it's about fanatical ideals at this time or reviewing something. And then when it retrogrades back into Scorpio, hidden things will emerge. After the break, I'm going to run through each of the signs and let you know how Mars retrograde in Sagittarius and Scorpio will it be affecting your sign.
A conscious lifestyle for a mindful life. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Hi, this is Sylvia Henderson, intuitive life coach and energy healer. Are you ready to elevate and rise way above your normal? Be sure to listen to my show, Intuitive Transformations, on OMTimes Radio, Sunday evenings at 9 p.m. Eastern. Get the inspiration you need to transform your life.
Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community. Simone Milasas would like you to know that business can be fun, which is why she wrote the book, Joy of Business. What if you could have the joy of business rather than the stress and struggle? Most of the time, the only thing stopping you from a thriving business is you. In the Joy of Business book, Simone gives you access consciousness tools and pragmatic ways to get out of your own way and to create the business, life, and living you know is possible and beyond what this reality says is achievable. Business is joy. It's creation. It's generative. It can be the adventure of living. You can purchase your copy of the book through Amazon or Joy of Business website, www.accessjoyofbusiness.com.
Are you ready to shift your energy, consciousness, and limiting beliefs? Join me, Shefali Burns, every Monday at 5 p.m. Eastern on Shifting with Shefali here on OMTimes Radio. Shift the blocks, limitations, and negative energies that have kept you from experiencing a life filled with joy, peace, love, abundance, and happiness. Are you ready to shift with Shefali? Are you ready to shine your brilliance?
Conscious media for conscious minds. OMTimes.
Hi there, welcome back to the Astrology Show. I'm Kelli Fox, your host and astrologer. And this week I'm talking about a busy astrological week and specifically Mars turning retrograde. So I'm going to run through each of the signs right now and let you know how Mars retrograde will be affecting you over this 10-week period. And then, of course, at the end of the show, I will give you your weekly horoscope. But right now, this is specifically Mars retrograde for each of the signs. And for Aries, now through May 27th, when Mars is in Sagittarius, there might be issues around travel, legalities, and learning, things that might come up from the past in those areas of your life. And then when Mars moves backwards into Scorpio from May 27th through June 29th, there may be issues coming to the surface about money, joint finances. What's yours, what's theirs, what's ours. Taurus, until May 27th, this will be about money for you at this time with Mars retrograde. And then May 27th through June 29th, there may be a lover from the past that re-emerges and rocks the boat in your current relationship. If you're single, it might be someone you know from the past that resurfaces. Gemini, now through the end of May, this is about relationships and how to deal with others, regardless of their viewpoints or their philosophies or values. It's how to get on with other people. And then when Mars retrogrades back into Scorpio, this is a time to start a diet and fitness program. Maybe pick something up that you had started previously and put on hold. It's also a great time for a health checkup. Cancer, now through May 27th, it for you is a great time for a health checkup when Mars is retrograding through Sagittarius. It's a great time for exercise, getting out there, trying something different. Try an exercise program that is something different, that tests you, that pushes you out of your comfort zone, because sometimes you do like to stay in your comfort zone. And then when Mars retrogrades back into Scorpio, this is about taking a risk from the past, or somebody coming back into your life from the past, or an issue with a child might arise from the past. Leo, when Mars retrogrades backwards through Sagittarius, this highlights information or things about children, and also taking a risk or a chance on something. It might not be an optimal time to do it until Mars starts moving forward again at the end of June. And then when it's back in Sagittarius, moving forwards, that is in August. So something might come up for you now through the end of May around children or taking a risk, but it's better just to strategize, put it on hold, and then take action in August. When Mars retrogrades back into Scorpio, the end of May through the end of June, this is when family matters may come to a head. Issues from the past come up and they will need to be dealt with. I would definitely wait until Mars turns direct, but things which have been hidden around home and family members, that is a time to strategize, work out a plan. End of June, start putting it into action. Virgo, Mars retrograde through the end of May for you is about home and family. So it's about dealing with things that are coming up from the past and probably trying not to get into debate, even discussion if people hold different values, family members hold different opinions and values to you. We've got a pretty heated political front at the moment. If somebody wants to vote in a different way than what you do, it's best to not go there. Then when Mars retrogrades back into Scorpio, take care with siblings, cousins, neighbours. Again, things rise to the surface around communication, so it's important just to put a lid on it, until Mars turns direct again at the end of June. Libra, now through the end of May, this is about you being careful with your words. Your words at this time hold great impact, and something that you may have said from the past may resurface during these next few weeks. Then when Mars retrogrades back through Scorpio, it will trigger your house of money. So any sort of financial issues from the past may surface. Scorpio, now through the end of May, your house of money will be triggered when Mars retrogrades through it in Sagittarius. This will be a time to not make any large purchases, particularly spur-of-the-moment purchases. It's best to put any big purchases on hold and wait until Mars turns direct again at the end of June through July, because what may happen is you might make an impulse purchase and then have buyer's remorse later. Then when Mars retrogrades through your own sign at the end of May through the end of June, this is all about you. All eyes are on you at that time. This is not a time to get a cosmetic procedure, no matter how small or trivial it might seem. Having any sort of cosmetic procedure, if you're a Scorpio, during the end of May through the end of June is not a good idea. Sagittarius, now through the end of May, the spotlight is on you, and something from your past will re-emerge, and something that you might have said or done may come back to bite you at that time. Then when Mars retrogrades back into Scorpio at the end of May through June, your intuition will be heightened, and pay attention to your dreams. They might be very insightful at this time. Capricorn, now through the end of May, Mars will be retrograding through your 12th house. This is about dealing with large institutions and organizations and trying not to get too frustrated with processes and red tape, because there's a lot of Mars is the planet of anger and assertion, and when it's misdirected, it really takes on the negative aspects of this planet, and that is about anger, frustration, impatience. So it's important now through the end of May that you keep your patience about you. And then when Mars retrogrades back into Scorpio, friends from the past might re-emerge. Friends and acquaintances might pop up again, people you haven't seen for a really long time. Aquarius, now through the end of May, as I just said to Capricorn, same for you, but the first half of the retrograde. So friends that you haven't seen from the past, haven't seen for a while from the past, or acquaintances re-emerge, and yours is the sign of friends and acquaintances. So it'll be a very interesting time how you connect with these people that come about from the past, how they might be helpful to you. And then when Mars retrogrades back into Scorpio, your 10th house is triggered, and the 10th house represents career and vocation. So something around your job, your career, your vocation, something you did in the past comes about once again. So it's like Groundhog Day or deja vu, dealing with something again around your career. And finally, Pisces. So now through the end of May, Mars in Sagittarius will be traveling through your 10th house of career. So this represents being flexible, being very flexible, dealing with the issues that may surface from the past, and not jumping in too quickly, to have some forethought and pre-planning. It's better to strategize around your career, any projects you're working on. It's better to not take any action, not launch anything during this retrograde time. Then when Mars moves back into Scorpio, this is a time to review travel plans, review courses or classes you may want to take, and there might be some open-ended legalities that crop up again or pop up that need to be dealt with. So overall, this Mars retrograde period through the end of June, it is better to plan and strategize rather than take any action. It's not a time to get upset, impatient, or frustrated, although many of us may be feeling that with this type of retrograde energy. And speaking of retrogrades, this morning Pluto turned retrograde. And yes, astrologers still consider Pluto a planet, and it is probably the most powerful planet of all. So that demotion probably did not sit well with Pluto when that happened. But astrologers do consider Pluto a planet still, and it turned retrograde this morning until September 26th. And Pluto is currently in Capricorn, and Pluto is a planet of transformation and regeneration. So it has a very long cycle. It's so far away from the sun that it takes almost 250 years to make its entire orbit around the sun. And if you can compare that to the moon will take 28 days, whereas Pluto takes 250 years. So there's a bit of a difference there. And so when Pluto is retrograde, it's all about personal growth and transformation. So it's a time when we might need to pause and absorb and integrate the lessons we've been learning. It's a time to make changes. So after the break, I'm going to continue with the planets this week.
Bringing a more conscious lifestyle to your world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Hello, I'm Sandy Sedgbeer, host of the Inspired Parenting radio show, where every week we bring you empowering information from the diverse fields of conscious parenting, education, neuroscience, consciousness, health, and metaphysics to support you in nurturing the best in your children. So if you're interested in understanding what shapes your children's minds, spirits, and hearts, join me every Thursday at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, and prepare to be inspired.
Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single OMTimes endeavor. Host your show with OMTimes Radio Network. As difficult as it is to believe, there are places in Africa where human traffickers sell albino children and their body parts for use in magic rituals. Humanity Healing International is actively working in Uganda to change this paradigm. The Albino Rescue Project finds albino children who are at risk and places them in safe schools and environments where they can learn and grow free from fear. To learn more or to sponsor a child, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
The Conscious Parenting Radio Show provides inspiration and resources for loving, empowering, and respecting your children and yourself. Join me, Timothy, every Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time as we consciously explore proven ways of living together in happiness, health, and harmony.
Bringing you the best of the conscious minds in the world. OMTimes Radio, your conscious lifestyle on steroids.
Hi there, and welcome back to the Astrology Show. I'm your host and astrologer, Kelli Fox. And this show I'm talking about the planets this week, and we have a very busy astrological week. The big news of the week, Mars turned retrograde yesterday. Today, I just talked about Pluto turning retrograde. And I see that this week, Venus, love planet Venus rules love and money, is very busy. So the first aspect that Venus is making this week is it's trining to Saturn. So what that means is Saturn is the planet of long-term. It's also the planet of seriousness, but not necessarily in a bad way. When it forms a trine or a harmonious connection, we use the positive keywords. So Venus, trine, Saturn. This is good for the fire signs, and the fire signs are Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. So relationship and finances are highlighted by this very short transit. You know, many of us will feel grounded and sensible at this time, ready to finally open that savings account or commit to another person in some capacity. So that's either romantically or even a business sense, because Saturn is one of the business planets. So helping others is a good way to start, taking care of our responsibilities, really, around love and money. So that's a good use for this energy. So tomorrow, and that's today, that Venus forms a trine to Saturn. And then tomorrow we have the Sun moving into Taurus. So the Sun stays in Taurus through May 20th. So for the next few weeks, this is a great influence for anything to do with money, possessions. It's great use of time for gardening. Get out there and enjoy the weather if you're enjoying nice weather. This is great for the earth signs, this influence when the Sun is in Taurus, and the earth signs are Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn. It's a time to enjoy life's simple pleasures. Taurus is the ruler of our senses. So if there's greater smells or tastes or touch, this is the time to really make the most of those simple pleasures in life. Creature comforts become more of a priority, and we are tuned into the sensual side of life. Spending time in nature is a great use of this energy. And then nurturing our bodies with loving care is also another expression of this energy. Many of us will become more security-minded and bring a very practical focus to money and material possessions. So we should strengthen our financial foundation at this time and accumulate more things. Not that I'm really an advocate of that. I'm really into recycling more than buying more stuff. So it's making the most of it. It's being practical with our money. And it's really also about getting in touch with what matters to us and then taking sensible steps to manifest more of what we want during this time. It's a time of materialism, but that word has so many negative connotations. I'm saying it in a way that's more positive. It's like, what is important to us in a material sense? It might be a hard time getting started on a project because sometimes the energy of Taurus can be a little bit lazy and overindulgent. But it's like once we get going on something, there's a lot of stamina and persistence. So the symbol of Taurus is the bull. And if you think about the bull and waving a red flag, then you will understand the flip side of the patience that this sign has a reputation for. And during this time, it's like one deliberate, methodical step at a time will get you to your end goal. And you can follow through to completion whatever you start. Quality is more important than speed. And then you can create results you're proud of in the long term. The shadow side of Sun in Taurus, as I said before, but also there's a stubborn streak going on during this time. Some of us might have a tendency to get overly attached to one way of doing things or to our own point of view. So it's more like be willing to change course if everything points to being on the wrong path, and willingly accept help from others. Also tomorrow, we have Venus forming a square to Pluto. Now, Venus today was forming a trine to Saturn. Tomorrow, it's forming a square to Pluto. So this is quite intense, more so for the cardinal signs, and that's Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. Venus is currently in Aries, and Pluto is currently in Capricorn. So what happens with this energy, it's like a small little devil whispering in our ear, planting nagging doubts and secret suspicions that quickly loom large. Venus squaring Pluto will highlight possessiveness, jealousy, intensity. We might find ourselves scrutinizing our closest companions, wondering if they're really what they say they are, and also compulsive, obsessive, jealous thoughts run repeatedly through our minds, and based on what? So before we start getting all wrapped up in what we think someone's doing, it might be best to take a step back, take a few deep breaths, and perhaps sleep on it until this energy fades a bit towards the end of the week. So this is a very intense energy when Venus forms a square to Pluto. Some of us might feel an urge to control and manipulate others, but it's all about intensity. This is not a time to cling to the past. And it's going to be difficult for some of us because with Mars just turning retrograde, it really is all about the past. So it'll be a very interesting week. Oh, and also the more we resist, the worse it might become. So sometimes when Pluto's involved, it's good to let go and go with the flow type of thing. So that is Venus squaring Pluto. And then on Thursday, we have a full moon in Scorpio, continuing the theme of intensity. Now, Taurians and Scorpios, this is a note for you. This is very intense. A full moon in Scorpio is probably one of the most intense full moons of all. And we've all heard the reputation that a full moon brings, people howling at the moon, all that type of thing. More babies are born, supposedly, during this time, more emergencies. But what a full moon is, according to astrology, it's a projection. It's a mirror. So anybody who comes into your life this week, particularly on Thursday during the full moon, it is a time to really look at ourselves through other people's behaviours. So, for example, if somebody's walking down the street, they come across people being aggressive and pushy and rude, that is a projection of their own behaviour. And sometimes it really is hard for us to see our own behaviours, especially when they're the negative behaviours. It is very hard to own and address them. But this is the week to do that, because with Mars turning retrograde, Pluto turning retrograde, and then this full moon in Scorpio, it really is about hidden things rising to the surface. So take care with that. And so hidden things rising to the surface, things being projected back at us. So this is a time to, when you try and push something down, but it pops out over the other side. So take care with that. So the full moon in Scorpio, I said, is highlighted for Scorpio and Taurus, but also the other fixed signs, which is Leo and Aquarius. And really, if I'm going to drill down into that sort of detail about who this is going to affect more so, it's anybody that has planets in fixed signs. but especially sun signs that people, Taurians born in April, Leos born in July, Scorpios born in October, and Aquarians born in January. This full moon on Thursday will be highlighted more so for you. And if you're an Aries, it's going to be about money. If you're a Taurus, it's about relationships and who is in control. If you're a Gemini, it's about health, listening to your intuition, and don't letting things linger. If you're a Cancer, it's about friends and romances. If you're a Leo, it's about home and family and career, and which you give the priority to, and finding a balance between the two. If you're a Virgo, it's about communication, study, learning, travel. If you're a Libra, it's about money and possessions. What's yours, what's mine, and what's ours. And we've just had tax day on last Friday. So it's very much about, did you get your taxes done in time? Is all of that okay? Double check everything. Don't let anything sit around. If you're a Scorpio, this is about relationships. You in relationships, you being dependent or independent in a relationship. Not just your romantic relationships, but all relationships where you have one-on-one dealings with others. If you're a Sagittarius, this is about getting your health checked out, paying attention to your intuition, dealing with larger institutions and organisations, and not getting upset or frustrated or surprised by what might come about from that. If you're a Capricorn, this is about friendships and love and taking a risk and children. If you're an Aquarius, this full moon will be triggering your home and family life versus your career and vocation and professional life. And finally, if you're a Pisces, this is about communication, trips, studying, and learning. That's what the full moon in Scorpio will be highlighting for you this week. Anyway, after the break, I will talk more about this week's astrological influences.
The future of Internet radio is here. OMTimes Radio, IOM FM.
Join Vibe Nation radio host, international psychic medium Carrie Turcotte, as she guides her listeners to rediscover themselves by accessing the keys of knowledge that already exist within. Each week's show is divinely orchestrated to intertwine with the universal energies, allowing the listeners to go deeper within. At the end of each show, Carrie will tap into the energies of the listeners and give a message from Spirit about the upcoming week. If you really want to get to know who you truly are, join Carrie each Monday at 3 p.m. on Vibe Nation Radio.
Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community. OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Do you have time to read that inspiring book or that blog post you've been meaning to get to? In your busy world, how do you improve yourself and keep your life going? I'm Lisa Kay, and my Between Heaven and Earth radio show can transform your life just by listening. Be uplifted with inspiring topics, positive stories, and ideas that really work. Between Heaven and Earth Radio is conscious living for your soul, every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time.
Free your mind. Expand your soul. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Hi there, and welcome back to the Astrology Show. I'm your host and astrologer, Kelli Fox, talking about the planetary influences this week, and we have a lot. We have a lot going on. We've had Mars turning retrograde, Pluto turning retrograde, Venus making a lot of up and down connections, Sun moves into Taurus, and we have a Scorpio full moon. So the other influence that's going on there, besides all those other things I just mentioned, is Venus forming a conjunction to Uranus. And so this is good for Aries in particular, and the other fire signs, Leo and Sagittarius, or anybody that has planets in fire signs. So Venus, when it forms a conjunction to Uranus, Venus is the planet of love and money. This week it has touched Saturn in a positive way, and then tomorrow it will be touching Pluto in a negative way. And then this conjunction is when two or more planets come together, they join up or they hook up, and it's more about intensity or emerging of energies rather than good or bad. So Venus forming a conjunction to Uranus. Uranus is the planet of the weird and the wonderful, I guess. Weird and wonderful, unique and different. So Venus, the planet of love, coming together with Uranus is all about unusual love or money coming from unexpected sources. So some wild and crazy things can happen when these two planets hook up. Love is a theme, of course, as it is this week, because Venus is connecting with Saturn and Pluto as well. And many of us, especially Aries, which is usually true anyway for Aries, but we don't particularly care what others think right now when it's to do with love and money. And many of us will be in the mood for something completely different. So make the most of those weekend plans. Step outside of your comfort zone and do something different. It's sort of like, here's the tall, dark and handsome stranger coming into your life. And then we often feel a strong attraction under this influence towards someone who wouldn't usually catch our eye. So be open to somebody from a faraway place or somebody different. And even if there is a connection that's made in the romance department, don't expect it to last for too long. Just enjoy the moment as it is, especially because these two planets are in Aries. And Aries is more about beginnings rather than seeing something through to the end. And any sort of relationship that begins at this time under this influence is very dramatic, memorable, but usually short-lived. But the difference with this is because this is about Venus conjuncting Uranus, but also today we've had Venus forming a trine to Saturn. So normally when Venus conjuncts Uranus, it's all about quick fling, I guess. But Saturn being involved, there's grounds for a longer-term relationship because Saturn is the planet of long-term. So it's an interesting mix of energies. On one hand, there's great potential for long-term love, but on the other hand, something quick and fleeting. So it's sort of like finding that middle ground. Socializing with friends instead of lovers is a good use of this energy as well, because there's a lot of freedom. Uranus seeks freedom. And then there's a lot of, for any artistic types, it's very creative, a creative energy. It's very powerful right now and original and deserves full expression. So this energy, there's lots of ways to use this freewheeling, impulsive power. Just think through consequences, because with Venus forming a conjunction to Uranus, both in Aries, there's not really much thought around consequences. Now, onto your weekly horoscope. And I've touched a lot of it during the show anyway, but I'm going to recap because I've broken it down according to each of the signs throughout the show. So now this overview, your weekly horoscope, will bring all these astrological energies together. So this week we have had Mars and Pluto turning retrograde, And it's really with that energy, it's time to attend to matters that we've tried to avoid. With the sun entering practical Taurus tomorrow, that helps because Taurus is very pragmatic, methodical. And then there's a full moon that we have on Thursday in Scorpio. So that is about finding balance, not giving away too much of your power to somebody else. Aries, this is a good time to go back to school. Don't be too proud to admit that there are gaps in your skills. The full moon asks you to consider how much your personal power could increase if you fill those gaps. So Aries, yours is the sign of the brave warrior. This week you will be called to fulfill that role. Taurus, this week is all about give and take as the sun enters your sign, and the full moon highlights your house of love. Strike a compromise between your own needs and wants and those of your partner. The key word for this week for you, Taurus, is balance. Finding the balance. Gemini, adjusting your daily routines could resolve a relationship niggle. If you don't see enough of each other, for instance, try getting up earlier for a regular early morning date. This will help. And of course, I just talked about the Venus-Uranus aspect this week and trying something new and different. That will surely help you and your relationship, Gemini. Cancer, make more room for fun in your life. Hard work pays the bills, but creativity and playfulness are more important just now. The full moon reawakens your inner child, so let her shine brightly. So Cancer, your planetary ruler is the moon, and so every time there is a full moon, it will be highlighted for you no matter what sign it's in. This week it's in Scorpio, and that is good for you because you're a water sign and Scorpio is a water sign. So there's a good lot of flow going on in a good way. And this is a time to use your increased intuition. Leo, family members are an inspiration this week, especially if you're feeling creatively blocked. Run ideas past your partner or your kids. They have a unique take on the issue which you'll find helpful. So, as I said before, the full moon will be triggering for you home and family and career. And the key word for all signs is finding the balance or finding a balance. Virgo, family issues swept under the carpet needs readdressing. Face it with compassion, understanding and tolerance. Libra, the full moon may bring some unpleasant financial news. This is your cue to re-examine how you have been using your talents. Are you wasted in your current job? Think about a change of direction. Scorpio, this Scorpio full moon is an important moment for your relationship. Will you choose to put past hurts behind you and to move forward as a team? It is doable if your love and commitment are strong enough. Sagittarius, Mars turning retrograde in your sign means you're facing the week with much less physical energy than normal. Because Mars is the planet of energy and assertion, when it turns retrograde, those energies move backward or turn retrograde as well. So this enforced slowdown is actually a good thing. However, as it gives you time to reflect on your year so far. And as I said at the beginning of the show, when Mars is retrograde, it's better for strategy and strategizing and internalizing. Try not to lose your patience. Capricorn, you've been somewhat isolated recently, but the full moon encourages you to reach out to others socially. If you have felt shy or awkward, that's a good week for you to work on your self-esteem and your self-confidence. Aquarius, ethics and principles are on your mind during this week's full moon, and you'll want to be sure that your employer or business is sound in these areas. If you spot weaknesses, bring them to light, because the full moon is all about illumination. It's all about shining on something brightly, especially because of this Mars retrograde in Sagittarius, and it's bringing up something from the past. When it moves retrograde back into Scorpio at the end of May, this is about something mysterious or secretive comes to the surface, and so something is discovered. And then finally, Pisces. Career progress may slow a little this week, and you may not get the result you wanted from a test or interview. However, this isn't the only avenue open to you. Think carefully about where your future might lie. So, as I said, this is a very busy week according to the stars. And so this is a time to rethink and find balance. Have patience. Don't lose your temper. Try not to get too frustrated. Things will resolve. Things will work out. With Pluto retrograde this week, it's a time of change and transformation. Anyway, thanks for joining me this week, this busy week we have according to the stars. And I look forward to talking to you next week. I'm Kelli Fox, your host and astrologer on The Astrology Show.